Well, looky what we got here. You see that brass fitting? There's usually just a 1/8" pipe plug in there. That's the intake manifold. So it's designed that you can tap a boost gauge for your pressure. So I did that yesterday. This is not a boost gauge kit, it's an oil pressure kit, but the line that they use is still super tough, super strong polyethylene, so it doesn't really matter. Besides, oil pressure goes a hell of a lot higher than boost pressure will ever go, so it works fine. So I routed it. You can see the first thing I did was not kink it. You don't want to kink this stuff. I made sure it went on the other side of the dipstick there, so it'll kind of keep its gradual entry into the brass. Routed it with some slack left in it here, so as the engine moves around a little bit, that this won't pull tight anywhere. And then I shoved it through that grommet, which I never cut any holes in it at all. You just shove it through and boom, down it goes. And then there's a gap. God, I don't even know if you can see it, but there's a gap built into the dash right there, and it's a little hard to find, so I dropped a piece of string down and tied it to the tubing and pulled it through. And I'll show you what I pulled it through. Look at that sweet DIY boost gauge. I have a bunch of gauges like this somewhere in a box, and this is the only one I could find. So it took a bunch of different hardware to adapt it down. This is what comes with the oil pressure boost system. So I'd add that and that and that and all that and hook it up, and it works fine. Because we're going to do some changes and some testing with this turbo system. We've got 186,000 miles, and I think the turbo could stand to be rebuilt, but the best I could get it to yesterday was just for a split second I could get it to 14 psi. So 13, 14 from what I read is about normal for a stock setup. So at least I've got, you know, something I can take measurements with while I screw around. Now, what I want to do next, since I got the gauge in, is put a boost elbow in. The problem is, I don't even know how that works on this turbo. There's a tap somewhere on the housing and a wastegate, right? So if you have to, look up boost elbow, Cummins boost elbow. You can buy them, you can make them. And I want to put one in. So what it does is it fools the wastegate into staying closed longer, so it builds more pressure. And I want to get to 25, let's just say 25 psi. Can I get there, and does it help the truck? It should have more power, but does the mileage stay the same? Does the mileage go to hell? At 3,500 feet altitude here, this truck has never gotten worse mileage. It's pretty awful, between 14 and 19, even when you drive it easy. So one thing I know that you've seen in past videos is the boots leak. They leak, all of them leak somewhat, so there's some loss. I just don't know how much. So that's one of the tests that'll happen, is once I put in new boots, how does it affect the boost gauge on the dash. So anyway, so somewhere here, I don't know where it is on this. So there should be the ability to do that somewhere. So anyway, all right, so that's one of the things I want to do. So when I go down to the hardware store today, I'm going to get the elbows and the set screws and the bullshit to make one. The other thing, when I rebuilt this injection pump, it had a little flaw. Let's see if I can. I can't even see, it's too dark. There's two marks. There's a mark somewhere on the pump, and on the engine you line the marks up. You rotate the pump until the marks line up, right? What some guys do is they rotate the pump 1/8 of an inch or so and get a little bit more timing out of it, and it makes a little more power. The problem is, back in the day when these things were relatively new, they had a recall. And I think my pump got replaced, has no mark on the pump itself. It's no mark at all. It wasn't ground off, it just never got one. So I kind of eyeballed it. Excuse the hell out of me. So when I rebuilt it, I kind of eyeballed where it would go, where halfway was. And at sea level, in the summer, air conditioning running, cruise at 65, I can get 26 miles per gallon out of this 6,000 pound truck. So that's pretty damn amazing, right? So it can't be too far off. Now up here at altitude, I can't get good mileage to save my ass. So I thought I'd bump the power up a little bit and see if that helps. Generally, increasing the power does not increase your gas mileage. But sometimes if you do it carefully enough, you'll do fine. So that's one of the things I'm going to do is advance the pump. The next thing I want to do is take the this is a potentiometer that follows the throttle and tells the computer when to shift. You take all that off and then you take this off and the fuel pin is in there. And the stock fuel pin is not symmetrical. It has one side's a little more shallow machined than the other. And if you rotate it to the right position, you get just a little bit more fuel, not a lot. And that's what I want to do. I just want to set that in the right direction because a 16-year-old kid used to own this truck and there was all kinds of stupid shit done to it. So that I can do, you know, real cheap, just taking it apart. So that'll be on the list here. The other thing is I'd really like to get an EGT gauge, exhaust temperature. Okay, where is it? Okay, so here's the turbo, right? There's the back turbo housing. And look at all this fun stuff here. BD makes a, I don't know, what the hell do you call it? A Jake brake for the exhaust. So right here, already I have a tap for an EGT monitor. I can unscrew that, screw the monitor in, stick it on the dash, bam. What this doesn't have, there's a huge diaphragm chamber back here for opening and closing that valve. Well, there's never been a switch under the dash. Somebody tore it out or lost it or whatever the hell. So that's all still sitting here. I've never used it or never tried to, but the good news is at least it comes with a tap already drilled and threaded for EGT monitoring, which I think is good. This truck sometimes runs hot for absolutely no reason, just climbing long hills, and I've already put in a new thermostat and radiator and all that stuff, and it didn't really change much. So anyway, that's our plan coming up here, all this different fun stuff. I think rotating that's going to be, rotating the timing will help a little bit. I really do. Oh, and this is part of that that BD Jake brake stuff right here. There's a switch here when the throttle comes all the way forward to idle. It kicks the switch on. It's supposed to do some shit with this. I don't really know. But I do know it costs almost $1,000 to add that thing to your truck. So someday I might investigate how to make it work. So anyway, that's it. I don't think there's any more else to rattle on, but I got a boost gauge hooked up and I'm happy. See you, bye.